I died. 11 seconds. That's how long the monitor in the ICU flatlined. That's how long my heart gave up before a nurse slammed the crash cart into the room and brought me back. 11 seconds. No white light. No angels. No grand reunion with my late husband. Just silence. And then a jolt that rattled my teeth. When I opened my eyes, I expected a familiar face. My son's, maybe. Derek, my only child. My reason for everything after Mark died. I thought I'd hear his voice, feel his hand in mine. Maybe a gentle "Mom, thank God you're okay." But there was no Derek. There was only a folded note on the tray table beside my IV drip. "Take it easy, Mom. We'll check in when we're back. Love you. D&K." We meant Derek and Kristen, his wife, my daughter-in-law. They were in Palm Springs. Vacation? For 12 days. 12 days. They had left while I was unconscious, unaware whether I would live or die. A nurse named Brian told me gently that I was stable now that I'd pulled through. He smiled, called me a miracle. But all I could think about was the absence. The deafening absence of the people I had sacrificed my entire life for. I didn't always expect to be alone. I once believed love. Real love was like a boomerang. You give it your all, and when it matters most, it returns. I gave everything. When my husband Mark died at 49, Derek was 24. Young, hollow-eyed, barely holding it together. So I held it for him, helped him finish school, cashed in our retirement savings so he could launch his real estate business. When Kristen came into the picture, I welcomed her with open arms, even let her redecorate the house I'd lived in for 30 years. I didn't complain when my grandmother's china was boxed up and replaced with modern minimalism, because that's what mothers do right. We sacrifice, we smile, we stay. They used to call me a blessing. Couldn't do this without you, Mom. Every Christmas, I'd make sweet potato pie from scratch, babysit the grandkids so they could take luxury trips to Miami or Aspen. I was the rock, the reliable one, always there, always available. But slowly being dependable turned into being invisible. The first dismissal was small. Derek forgot to tell me about a dinner they had with friends. Then Kristen rolled her eyes when I offered to help with the kids' homework. My voice got quieter, not because I didn't have anything to say, but because I was tired of saying it twice once to be heard, and again to be acknowledged. Still I stayed, because good mothers endure. Even when the floor is cracking beneath our feet, we hold the line. We believe, maybe naively, that one day they'll remember what we gave up for them. That one day they'll look back and say, "She was the reason we made it." But then came the stroke. I remember the moment before, just making tea, then a numbness crawling up my arm like ice. And then nothing. Then ICU. Then silence. Then waking up to an empty room and a note. "Take it easy, Mom. How do you take it easy when your only son doesn't wait to see if you survived the night I stayed in that ICU for 8 days? No visitors, no flowers, no phone calls. Only Brian, that kind-hearted nurse, bringing water and adjusting my blanket like I mattered. One night, I heard him talking on the phone outside my room. He thought I was asleep. Yes, she's awake now. Stable. Would you like to speak with her?" A pause. "Oh, okay. Just thought you'd want to know." I knew who he was talking to. He was trying to reach my son. I lay in the sterile ICU bed, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. The heart monitor beeped steadily, a rhythm that reminded me I was alive, but barely. As I stared at the ceiling, memories began to trickle in, not gently, But like waves breaking through a fragile dam, when Mark died, everything fell on me. Derek was 24, still so young, still needing guidance, still broken from losing his father. I became both mother and father, counselor and cheerleader, the full support system. I took night shifts at the diner, graded essays at dawn, packed his lunch and tucked in handwritten notes. You're stronger than you think. 2 years later, Derek called with excitement. He had a real estate business, downtown office space, sleek design. He just needed capital. Mark and I had built our retirement fund over 30 years, tight budgets. No vacations, used cars. No new furniture. That fund had been our safety net. But for Derek, I signed it over without blinking. Love doesn't hesitate. Then came Kristen. Stylish, sharp-tongued, sweet when she wanted to be. She called me Mom from the start. It felt warm. Until it didn't. This old china doesn't match our aesthetic. My grandmother's dishes, the curtains Mark picked, my rocker, all packed away. We're updating the space. Hope that's okay. I nodded. That was my first quiet surrender. They moved in, said it was temporary. I believed them. Slowly, my home became theirs. The walls turned white, modern furniture arrived. Even the smell changed, candles and cologne, replaced cinnamon and wood polish. Open houses were staged. I made pies for them. It gives a homey feel, Kristen said. Neighbors admired me. How lucky you are to live with your son. Luck, it felt like I was being erased politely. At Christmas, I cooked everything. Derek toasted to Mom. The reason this family works. Cheers, applause, and then they stared at their phones. I saw my reflection in the roasting pan. I looked happy, but inside, I was shrinking. Bit by bit, I faded from priority to afterthought. Mom, can you watch the kids while we go to Miami? Mom, can you move into the den? We need the nursery. I said yes every time, because saying no felt like betrayal, like breaking a silent contract of motherhood. I clung to their needs like they were lifelines. I was becoming invisible, but I didn't realize it. Then came the night before the stroke. I was sewing my grandson's superhero cape. Kristen browsed flight deals. Derek finalized a contract. Past midnight, he kissed my forehead. Rest, Mom. Rest wasn't for people like me. Rest was a currency I loaned but never received. And then blackness, a stroke, machines, tubes, silence. In that silence, something shattered. Not just in my brain, but in my heart. Because when I woke up, they were gone. Gone for 12 days. A folded note left in their place. 8 days in ICU. No visitors, no flowers, no phone calls, nothing. That's when I realized love given too freely becomes invisible. A constant hum that no one notices until it's gone. That night, I lay there and asked myself a question that shook me. What would happen if I stopped giving? When the hospital van dropped me off at my own doorstep, I felt like a ghost arriving at a place I once belonged. I had expected to feel relief, familiarity, maybe even a sense of homecoming. But standing there staring at the front door, something felt wrong. Off. The ceramic frog planter, once a kitschy garden ornament, now sat askew. My emergency key gone. I knocked, waited, knocked again. Finally, a neighbor I barely knew opened the door, blinking like I was a stranger. They're not here, she said. They mentioned staying another night in LA. I nodded, but something inside me shifted. Something cold. If they could forget me this easily, maybe I needed to forget them too. I stepped inside and instantly knew. The air felt empty, not unclean, just hollow. The warmth I once poured into this house every holiday, every midnight. Story, every pie and patched blanket was gone. scrubbed out with bleach and new intentions. The couch was gone. My curtains gone. There were paint swatches taped to the hallway wall. And on the dining table, my dining table sat a real estate flyer. Charming southern home, perfect for young families. My home. My history. Reduced to a slogan. And then I saw it, a manila folder left carelessly near the kitchen sink. Inside, legal documents. Power of attorney. My signature. Dated 2 years ago. I remembered vaguely post-surgery groggy. Derek had said, just in case, Mom. Now I understood. The case had arrived, but not to protect me. I sat on the kitchen floor, heart pounding in my ears. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stopped. After what felt like hours, I stood and walked to the pantry. Behind the rice bags was an old shoebox, my ledger's passwords, account notes. I pulled out my phone. The first name I dialed, Daniel Langford. Once a shy boy in my 3rd grade class. Now an estate attorney. Mrs. Ellison, he said. Yes, Daniel. I think I'm about to be erased. Sen Elmerson Stunning Sir Morses Tonian Chimporf. Daniel listened. Carefully. Quietly. When I finished explaining everything, what I saw, what I feared, what I remembered, he said nothing at first. Then a long breath. You're not the first, Mrs. Ellison, he said, but you'll be the last if I have anything to say about it. By 2 p.m., I was sitting in his office. We reviewed the power of attorney form. He pointed at a paragraph near the bottom. This version doesn't give them authority to sell real estate without your explicit consent, which they don't have. And this signature, he held up the paper, it's close but not quite yours. I stared at my own name, slanted differently, too neat, forged. Daniel acted fast. Within 3 days, he filed paperwork revoking the old document and restored full control to me. The house was pulled off the market. I signed a new listing agreement in my name. I didn't wait for a confrontation. I didn't leave a note. I just took back what was already mine. But before I left, I went back to Derek's iPad. It was still logged in. What I found broke something in me. Text messages between Derek and Kristen House goes on MLS Monday. If she's not home yet, we'll move on the assisted living plan. Let's be real. Mom was never good at boundaries. And then a file PDF printed saved a recently updated life insurance policy. Beneficiary Derek Ellison. They weren't preparing for my care. They were preparing for my absence. My death. That night I stood in the living room, where my old couch used to sit, where we used to unwrap presents and laugh on snow days. It was bare now, soulless, and I whispered to the silence, that was the last time. No goodbye, no guilt. I packed what mattered, Mark's watch, some photos, old letters. I left everything else. The house sold quickly. Cash buyer. Daniel made sure the deal was airtight. I left no forwarding address, no trail, just me. I left before sunrise. No note, no message. Just me and the sound of gravel beneath my tires. I didn't use GPS. I didn't want a record. Just a paper map I found in the pantry and a half tank of gas. By nightfall, I had made it to a truck stop somewhere outside Richmond. I slept in my car arms around a box of letters and photos. I didn't feel fear. I felt stillness, like grief had finally exhaled. The next day I crossed into Vermont. I didn't plan it. The trees just looked kinder there, the hills quieter. I pulled into a little town called Pinerove. Population small, expectations smaller. It felt untouched, like a place time forgot. I introduced myself to the trailer park owner, Margaret Benson, retired librarian. No family. It rolled off my tongue so easily I almost believed it. He asked if I smoked. I said no. He nodded. That was the end of the interview. The trailer was small but dry. A cot, a stove, a screen door that creaked when the wind blew. It was perfect. Every morning I walked to the library and offered to shelve books. The librarian, a young woman named Chloe, said sure. I learned every local name within a week. I smiled when people walked in. No one asked about my past. No one cared what I used to be. Only that I remembered their name and returned their books on time. That's where I met Elena. She was a waitress with tired eyes and a daughter named Tilly. Tilly had curls and sticky fingers and called me Nana Margaret after 3 days. I didn't correct her. We baked cookies from a box mix, built paper towns on the floor. I taught her how to write her name in cursive. She made me laugh a soft laugh, the kind that doesn't carry weight. I kept a notebook under my pillow, where I wrote every lie I told, just in case I needed to remember who Margaret was supposed to be. But most nights, I didn't open it. I didn't need to, because for the first time in years, I wasn't pretending. I wasn't waiting for a call that wouldn't come. I wasn't grieving the people I lost. I was building something new, quietly, softly, on my own terms. It started with a birthday party. Just a small moment. Streamers, store-bought cupcakes, plastic tablecloths. Tilly was turning 6. We set up a few folding chairs in the town rec room and played music from a Bluetooth speaker. Elena handed me a gift bag. Sit next to her, Margaret. She wants you to read the card. I sat beside Tilly as she opened a box of markers and a sketch pad. She beamed. I read the card aloud, and she leaned her head against my arm. Someone took a photo, then a video. 30 seconds, maybe. I didn't know it was uploaded, didn't know it would go viral, didn't know someone would recognize my face, compare it to old headlines, cross-check birth records. 3 days later, Elena burst into the library, breathless. Margaret, she said, holding out her phone. You need to see this. On screen, a blurry video of me with Tilly. Caption found her. Grandma Ghost is alive and well in Vermont. It had over 400,000 views. My face was trending again, but not the name I chose. Not Margaret Benson. The internet did what it does. Dug. Matched. Confirmed. Martha Ellison. Mother abandoned. Survivor vanished. Woman who walked away from it all. I went home and shut off the Wi-Fi. Packed a go bag. I wasn't afraid. I was tired. Tired of being found. The next morning, a silver SUV with Georgia plates pulled up outside the library. Derek stepped out. Same forced smile, same slouch, holding coffee like a peace offering. I watched from behind the shelves, waited, then walked out. He opened his mouth, closed it. Then finally, Mom, please. Just come home. I looked at him, the boy I raised, the man who almost sold my life from under me. And I said calmly, I already did. You just weren't there for the funeral. Oh, Nance. I didn't open the letter Derek left at the library. I didn't need to. Some things, when broken, become too sharp to hold again. Instead, I left it in the return slot and walked back to the trailer. The air smelled like rain. Tilly was waiting with Elena, waving with sticky fingers from cupcake frosting. Nana Margaret, she called. That name, one I was never given but had grown into, meant more than any title I'd ever had. Elena looked at me with quiet worry. You okay? She asked. Yes, I said. For the first time, I really am. We baked cookies that night. Tilly sat on the counter licking batter from the spoon. I watched her this tiny light and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Contentment, not as a reward, but as a right. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want closure. I didn't want to teach anyone a lesson. I only wanted peace, a life that belonged to me. I wrote in my notebook that night, "You don't need a courtroom to reclaim your power. Sometimes you just need a locked door and a choice not to open it." And I meant it. Each day after that felt like planting seeds I'd never expected to see bloom. I woke up without dread. I walked to the library with purpose. I smiled not out of obligation, but because joy had returned quietly and completely. I taught Tilly how to write her name in cursive. We folded paper cranes and taped them above her bed. We built towns from cereal boxes and gave every street a name. Elena would sometimes ask, "Do you ever miss it?" Meaning the old life. I'd pause, then shake my head. "I miss who I was before I forgot myself," I'd say. Because that's what I had lost, not just a home or a son, but a version of myself that had been swallowed by service. And here in a trailer behind a bait shop, with a little girl who called me Nana, and a woman who never asked about my past, I had been reintroduced to the woman I'd almost lost. We spent Sundays making soup for the neighbor who had arthritis. I started keeping a tiny garden rosemary mint, one tomato plant that refused to grow straight. Strangers called me by name, not my history. The old woman from the library, the one who remembers your dog's name, the one who brings cookies in mismatched tins. And for the first time, I didn't feel invisible. I felt essential, not because I was needed, but because I was known. Three days after Derek left, a letter arrived in the library's return slot. No return address, just 2 words on the front. "I'm sorry." I didn't open it, not because I was angry, but because I no longer needed it. Apologies are strange things. They don't erase choices. They don't undo harm. Sometimes they come too late to mean anything other than regret. I placed the envelope in the back of my notebook. Not to keep it, just not to throw it away. Not yet. That afternoon I took Tilly to the lake. We collected shells smooth and broken alike and arranged them in a heart shape on the sand. It collapsed with the wind and she laughed. So did I. Not the nervous laugh of someone holding everything in, but the clear light laugh of someone no longer carrying the weight of what they'll never get back. Peace doesn't arrive like lightning. It arrives like this quiet ordinary, disguised as a child's hand in yours, and the sound of water lapping at your feet. Months passed. The seasons turned softly in Pinerove. The frost came early, coating the roof of my trailer in silver. Tilly learned how to read small books by herself. Elena started calling me for advice, not out of politeness, but because she trusted me. One night I sat at my small desk and opened my notebook, not to write a plan, not to make a list, just to remember. I began a letter not to Derek, not to Kristen, not even to Tilly, to myself, to the woman I once was. You gave too much. You stayed too long. But when you left, you did it with grace. You didn't slam the door. You didn't curse their names. You walked away, and that was enough. I closed the notebook and looked out at the moonlit yard. Peace wasn't a gift someone handed me. It was something I claimed, inch by inch, day by day. Some legacies are loud money monuments fame. Mine a child who smiles when she sees me, a woman who calls to say thank you, a life no longer defined by loss, but by presence. And if anyone ever asks what happened to Martha Ellison, the answer is simple. She lived on her own terms. If you are reading this, maybe you've also known the pain of being forgotten. Maybe you gave too much to people who only noticed when you stopped giving. I don't write this to reopen old wounds. I write this to offer something else, a quiet reminder that you matter, even if they didn't say thank you, even if they left you behind, even if the people you poured your life into turned away. You are still worthy of love, peace, and dignity. Start over if you must. Start small. Start alone. But start. Your value is not measured by who stays or who claps or who calls. Your value is in the way you keep showing up for yourself, even after everyone else has gone home. I did not disappear. I chose peace. I did not lose my family. I found my voice. And if you ever feel like you're nothing but a faded photo in someone's memory, remember this. You can walk away. You can begin again. You can live a life that doesn't beg for space, but builds it. And you don't owe anyone your silence.